As of January 6th, 2026, I am over 2 years sober. Hi guys, my name is KK. I wanted to make this probably way longer than it needs to be video about my sobriety journey. I wanted to make this video talking to you specifically about weed addiction in addition to alcohol addiction and how I ultimately quit both of those things. Hi, editing me here. So I wanted to do a quick little disclaimer. I am not a medical professional or a drug addiction specialist or educator or anything like that. This entire video is going to be based off of my personal experience, and I will have links below for proper help and whatnot. Honestly, I filmed the entire thing and edited it, and I've been sitting on it for about a month. And because obviously I know that I am not any sort of like professional on this, I was like, maybe I shouldn't post this. But I was watching this video of Jules LeBron, and she was saying how Tana Mongeau has used her influence to properly influence both Jules and others to become sober. And I was thinking like, wow, you know, I think me sharing my perspective, my story, not, again, any sort of advice that you should follow, but maybe hopefully get inspired by, I think is valuable and worth sharing. I was worried that like my tone, because I'm such a silly girl, like would make someone think that I don't take what I'm talking about seriously. But if it's your life story, you have to find some humor in it. So I just wanted to give that little disclaimer. I'm gonna, again, have links below for proper, you know, resources and education and all that good stuff. Anyway, thank you. Why I wanna make this video? Great question that I asked myself. When I was trying to figure out ways to become sober from gardening, whatever we wanna call it on the internet, I really hope I don't get flagged too bad, but when I was looking for resources about weed addiction, I found that there weren't that many. When I was searching, a lot of it was about alcohol, which I ultimately ended up quitting as well, but my biggest problem was weed. And so I wanted to make this video to kind of talk to you about how my problem began, how I ultimately quit it, and how I'm feeling now. So there's gonna be timestamps below if you're looking for something in particular, because I'm a rambler. So let me just start by saying, like, this decision, I may be dramatic, but it was one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do. Weed has a very good PR person. LOL, well, not really, considering many people are still in prison for weed. But anyway, my point being that I think there's a lot of false propaganda about marijuana and how it's not addicting. I'm not gonna go here and talk some nonsense about like gateway drug. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I also firmly believe that weed should be legal. That is the first and foremost point. In the state I'm in, it currently isn't, which is crazy. But I believe that all people should be exonerated from any weed charges, and whatever needs to be done to make it up to them should be done. I think weed can be extremely dangerous, but not in the way that it is treated in the US criminal justice system. So I just need to make that first and foremost clear, okay? I'll tell you my little story. So growing up, I remember I smoked weed for the first time around 15, and I didn't totally love it. Then I had a little phase in college, and then I had a really bad experience that like scarred me off of weed for a super long time. Flash forward, post-college, I had an ex who loved weed, and so whenever I would smoke spliffs, I remember feeling really sick. So like weed was not always my best friend. However, I went through like some trauma. I'm not gonna go into that in this video, but basically as of 2018, I started smoking weed very heavily. And at first I loved that it just shut my mind off. I loved that I felt the like bubbly joy of weed. I loved that I felt like zoning out. It was like, I really could turn off the anxiety in my mind. That's how I felt. I loved the ritualistic aspect of it. I mean, in the past 5-10 years, I feel like a lot of cute weed merch has come out. Now there's cute rolling papers and cute bongs, and I loved all of that part. Again, like there's something very nice about the ritual of smoking, and it was just something I liked doing. I also loved being part of weed culture. Like I liked being, oh, I'm the stoner girl. Oh, come to my house and we can smoke weed. Let's smoke weed together and watch a movie. And like, I thought that it helped food taste better. I loved smoking weed before working out. I also was one of those people who firmly believed that it helped my sleep. Not true. But so these are all the positives, right? This is why I liked weed. And this is why if you're watching this trying to quit, you understand. Then it all began to kind of take a turn around COVID. I am the first to admit, I definitely overused weed during COVID. I would do a lot of waking and baking. And if any of this comes across as judgment, know that I'm judging myself and not you, okay? So don't feel bad. But for me, waking and baking was just terrible. I was living alone and I would just smoke weed and then like do nothing for the whole day. And that always really annoyed me. I felt like I was really like, it would really just make me frustrated because I felt like there were so many things I needed to get done. I also felt like it really started to make my anxiety go kind of crazy. I felt like my mind would just start to race. I also felt like I would wake up throughout the night and smoke weed because I was like, oh, it helps me fall asleep. But it didn't help me stay asleep, and that's, I think, a real important thing. I think a lot of people like to say, oh, it helps me sleep, but like, does it? Does it keep you asleep? I don't know. I also later found out I have sleep apnea anyway, so like, it was not even really solving the problem. My brain felt really sluggish. I felt slow. I felt like just my memory wasn't there. And I'm one of those people who, you know, love it or hate it. I sometimes hate it, sometimes I love it. I have a very good memory. So the fact that I wasn't like recalling things the way I normally knew my brain to have the capacity to made me feel kind of scared. But there were like two big things that I felt like were real big red flags with my weed addiction. One, I would like go off and smoke weed by myself. I think that's something that is a red flag. I'm not saying it has to be something social, but if you interchange weed with alcohol, then you're like, oh, that person would have a problem. If you're like drinking alone by yourself, drinking before work, drinking in the morning, I think we all can understand that those are like not good. Very not good. And at parties and stuff, it's like, it's supposed to be a thing that makes you social and like makes you interact with people. But I just didn't feel like isolating myself and going off in a corner to smoke because I wanted to be high was like good. Okay. Then the second thing was that I really felt like I couldn't take a break. People, and that's the thing about weed, right? You smoke and then you have to smoke more and more because your tolerance gets, I never remember if it's lower or higher. Higher. I have a high, yes, higher. So basically I'd be smoking a lot. Okay. And yeah, and I felt like the effects would last shorter and shorter, that everyone's like, oh, take a tolerance break. I couldn't do that. Like I literally couldn't take a week off. I felt it became such a like I literally was addicted to it. I can't tell you if it was like my brain or if it was just the addicted to the ritual of it. I'm not sure, but whatever. I was definitely addicted to it because I could not quit. Like it just, that sound like not a possibility at all. So then I got laid off from my job. A lot of stuff in my life changed. I moved back home and there was something kind of nice because my dad smokes weed. So it was like the thing we did together. And again, adding to that sort of ritual element of it. But even he, at one point, I remember he was like, whoa, it's like 11 a.m. like on a day off. And he was like, wow, like you're starting early. Yeah. So I knew in my heart, I wanted to make a change. But I was like, I couldn't do it. Like I felt like I tried, but like I couldn't. And I was just sort of like, is this just gonna be my life? So then what had happened was I met a really lovely man who's still my boyfriend and like truly the best relationship I've ever had. And believe it or not, he's like one of those sweet angels who's like never smoked a cigarette. I'm like, can't relate. My poor lungs, the things they've seen. Beginning to hang out with someone who is sober was very interesting for me. So I have this specific memory, and it was going to a Chili's. And mind you, he was my coworker, so it was a little escandalo. But we went to Chili's, and it was right at the beginning of our relationship. And I smoked weed before we went. And mind you, he was sober. So again, that thing of like, why was I under an influence if he wasn't? It felt a little bit off. And he kind of gave me the ick. And he never gave me the ick. And since he does not give me the ick, right? But in that moment, it was like the anxiety and paranoia of the weed was really getting to me. And mind you, this bit is silly, but he, oh, and the whole other thing was, you know, our coworkers didn't know yet. So it was like, I was a little bit anxious about like, oh, people finding out, not because I was ashamed of him or anything, but you know, it's like generally looked down upon to like date a coworker. So he like jokingly found a chip that was kind of heart-shaped and like nibbled it into a heart. And he was like, look, it's for you. And he was like, why don't, like, let's take a photo, that's cute. And I, like, in my anxiety brain, it, like, gave me the ick so bad, which, again, like, me now would be like, LOL, you're stupid, like, crunch. But then I was like, oh my God, he's gonna hard launch us. And I was like, I don't like the chip. Like, I, like, fully, like, ripped him a new one for, like, no reason. I was like, oh my God, I'm not hard launching us with a chip. Like, I fully yelled at him at Chili's. Oops. And, like, I don't know, I think I felt God in that Chili's because I was like, whoa, like, this kind man, after years and years of dating frogs, is like being so sweet to you and taking you out and like actually wants to give you a heart-shaped chip and like express his love for you. And he was not suggesting we hard launch. He just wanted to take a photo because he thought it was funny and cute. And I was like, whoa, like, blink, 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 blink. Like, I'm rejecting a nice person because I'm paranoid. And when I got home, I like really sat to myself and thought about it, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. So he is part of the reason I quit. The other thing was I have really bad ADHD, and I wonder if there's a weird connection between people who have ADHD and liking weed, because I feel like it calms the brain. But I'm telling you, during COVID, you guys, I would be like taking Ritalin and then like smoking weed after, and it was just like to kind of balance how like crazy I was feeling. And I'm still medicated, don't you worry. But like, that's a little bit much. Another thing, sorry, a huge thing I forgot to point out, I'm actively depressed. I am taking medication for my depression. I am taking SSRIs. And then here I am also smoking weed, which makes you more depressed. Like, what a weird snake eating its tail. You know, I always feel like when I'm trying to actually get healthier mentally, it's like you should really be throwing all the spaghetti at the wall. And if one of the pieces of spaghetti is throwing the spaghetti against the wall, like trying everything to make you happy. And doing a depressant is definitely not something that will make you happy. So, okay, so first Jan came along, that's his name, my lover, my hubby. Then B, I was making myself more depressed and it wasn't helping my depression. But then C, because I have ADHD and the health insurance I was on, I was like, I need Vyvanse for my work. Like, I'm not focusing. And they were like, okay, sweet, but you need to pass a drug test. And I was like, ooh. Blink, 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 blink. What? I need to pass a drug test? So this happened right before the chipsident, but I was shocked. I was like, oh, well, I can't do that. But I knew that it would help my work, which was also something that would like fundamentally help me out. And also Vyvanse has been like huge for my mental health. And like, you know, when you actually have ADHD and it just makes you feel normal, it was like one of those. Like, I was like, wow, I really need to figure out how to get on that. So all of these things kind of aligned together. And I'd been thinking about it, and then New Year's rolled around. And to mind you, as we started dating, he is not only like one of those angels who's never smoked a cigarette, but he also doesn't drink. He's like genuinely allergic to it. We go out to Chili's with my best friend and her boyfriend. Another incident at Chili's. I'm telling you, I feel God at the Chili's.
I feel God in this Chili's tonight.
This should be sponsored by Chili's. It's not, but it should be. I had a little strawberry margarita, and just something in me said like, this is the last time you're gonna drink or smoke weed. And it was funny because it's January 6th, LOL. Never forget though, and I always think about it every January 6th. I mean, every time I'm like, it's my sober anniversary, and it's also the like insurrection anniversary. I'm like, oh God. But it's kind of funny. It's kind of like if it was 9/11 or something. So anyway, I don't know what it was, but just something snapped in me. I think it was enough of like wanting to make the choice, thinking about it all the time, and then something just finally shifted. So ultimately, if I'm answering the question of like how I did it, it was ultimately a personal decision, and I did kind of go cold turkey. If you unwrap the methods behind my madness, I mean, one was like support. Like, I think if I had a partner that's actively smoked weed and drank, I don't know if I could have been able to do it, and I want to be so honest in saying that. I think that it is huge that my best friend and the person I spend the most amount of time with doesn't do those things. I think that would be very difficult. If you're thinking about going through it and you have a partner that still does those things, I give you a lot of luck and good vibes, because I'm so susceptible to peer pressure. I always joke I can never meet a scientist because like I'm too weak in the mind, you know, but that's not true. Actually, I am very strong in the mind because I was able to ultimately quit. Anywho, support system is huge. The support was actually what helped me get sober, because funnily enough, I have a couple family members who smoke weed and they all drink. And so me making that choice did feel kind of crazy. I think also having like the support and encouragement from a psychiatrist was really nice too. I think I felt like, wow, because she was kind of frank about it. She seems like one of those people who's also never smoked weed. She's like, you shouldn't do that. And I was like, ooh, well, because like, not gonna lie, my buddy, my old psychiatrist back in New York, he straight up was like, it's fine. And I'm like, sir, was it fine? Should you really been not encouraging me, but certainly not discouraging me to smoke weed and take antidepressants at the same time? So that was a bit of a mess. So ultimately, I think support is a huge thing to quit. I think that is probably the thing I'd recommend the most to help you do it. And then ultimately it was just sort of my decision to quit. If you're even watching this video with the hope to try to quit, I think you kind of know that you want to. And I don't know what happened. I just, one day, just a switch flipped in me, and I was like, okay, it's the day. So now the rollout. I, immediately felt withdrawals. I was pissed off. I was just like not in a good mood. Very cranky, not having it, not a happy girl. And the dreams, you guys, the dreams were so weird. I had so many weird dreams. They were just like bizarre and abstract, and some of them were kind of nightmarish and evil, and others were just sort of like a lot. So that was a big thing. But after I think like one calendar week, the antsiness and withdrawals stopped. The dreams didn't stop for like a month and a half, I swear. But, again, I was really lucky because what I did was just avoided people who smoked weed and just focused on my own thing. I was also in the like, oh my God, we're in love, because we'd only met the prior October. So like, I feel like when you're dating and like going out, it was nice that my routine wasn't then based around weed anymore, And I will tell you, I still felt sluggish for about like 6 months. Like, I felt pretty sluggish, and I was surprised. Only like, God, I think like 9 months in, I think 9 months is when it fully exits your body, but only like 9 months in did I really start to feel like I was finally snapping back at like full capacity. My brain felt like that fog wasn't there anymore. And that's kind of crazy and a little bit spooky if you think about it. Because and I'm not judging you, but I was judging me, because it's just sort of like, yeah, that was hard. And again, like, it was really hard because I felt like every time I looked up stuff about addiction, it was always about alcohol. So let me just give you the brief thing about alcohol. For me, I've always had a weird relationship with alcohol. I've had family members who are alcoholics, so I always felt like my own relationship with alcohol wasn't really chosen for me, because it was very impacted by the people around me. And I always had a bit of a fear, a bit of a hesitancy about alcohol. So like, I often drank, even though maybe like, I don't know, it was like I was very hesitant about it, but I'd still do it. And I had far too many incidences of getting like super messy, but I still didn't like it, which is crazy. Like, I like the flavor of white wine, light beers, and like a fun, White Claw or something. But like, I don't love alcohol. And the way it makes you feel, yeah, one drink feels great, but I would always drink too much and get messy. And one time it was a work party, you guys, and I got so sloshy, so cringe, it was so cringe. So then the next day I was so drunk, and I remember it was in New York, and I was on the train and I was trying to get to work, and the train stopped, and they're like, you need to get in like a bus. And I was like, ugh. And then I puked at the corner of Myrtle and Broadway. If you know, you know. And I just remember I was telling my boss, oh, I'm running late because of the trains. And then I had to text him, and I was like, actually, I'm not coming in at all. And like, I don't know, I just like don't want to be that girl. I don't want to be like such a flake. I don't want to be so unreliable. And like, also, the older I got, the worse my hangovers got. I go out on a Friday, I'm like, my whole Saturday is garbage. Like, I can't do anything. I'm just laying in bed. And I really hated that feeling. And again, like, I have GERD as a 30-something-year-old, which I wonder if any of it was related. But so not drinking is always helpful for that. But ultimately, I'll be real. I actually, and maybe this sounds like an addict and you just rewind something I just said 5 minutes ago, but I really don't feel like I had that much of a problem with alcohol because of the way I felt about weed was so different. Like, I loved weed. I loved the feeling of smoking weed. I loved all of it. Drinking, I was never that girl. Like, I always was a little bit too hesitant about drinking to be like, I'm the girl who just wants to be drunk all the time, or like, I want to drink all the time. It always kind of freaked me out. Like, I never had alcohol like in my apartment, or I never drink alcohol alone in my apartment by myself. Only if I was having a terrible, terrible day. But like in general, I wasn't that into it. However, I did decide to throw the baby out with the bathwater when I quit weed, because I just was like, I'm done with both of it. Because I feared that if I was ever drunk, that I would be more likely to open myself back up to weed. And so that's why I quit both. And I will tell you this, quitting drinking was hard. And I think it also helps that I had the support system. I think the ultimate key to quitting is having a sober or alcohol averse or whatever, a support system that doesn't drink very much or at all. Because, once, like before I quit drinking, I would drink and my boyfriend wouldn't. And that always felt kind of weird. Again, like, why am I the only one here doing this? So quitting was easy, honestly, for me, because I was like, well, no more. I also moved to a city where like I don't have the trains, and I always felt kind of icky about people just like drinking and driving. Can we talk about that? Like, Why is that such a thing? Like, I remember like with dates and stuff, I guess I just Uber. It was just weird. Like, I didn't like that. It freaked me out. So drinking was kind of easier for me to quit. And I don't know if I would have if I didn't quit weed. The thing is, this is the tea. I learned the thing I like the most about sobriety is I love waking up. Okay, so I'll go out and sometimes I feel anxious at parties and sometimes I really wish I could have a drink. But the next morning is like euphoric. Waking up clear-headed, not having a hangover, oh my God. The thing about it is, as I mentioned, my mental health, that's another part where I was like, oh man, I'm taking SSRIs, yet I'm doing all this stuff that really actively impacts my mental health. Like, I want to think about that. And I'm talking to myself, not you. And my hangovers, my mental health was getting so bad. My sisters and I call it party girls remorse, but my friend told me the youngins call it hang-anxiety. But the day after, I'd always be that friend texting people, did I say something weird? Did I do something weird? And like, I would be so bold. Drunk me would just be like, who wants a compliment on Instagram? Oh, so cringy. No, but I was just like looking for love in all the wrong places. And I really feel like I let alcohol open me up to things that sober me probably wouldn't be so bold and so available to, if that makes sense. So the decision to quit both of those, it was pretty easy to make at the time. And I miss weed a lot. I can't lie. That's the worst part. I wish 2 years later I could be like, you guys, I don't even think about it anymore. No, I'll have dreams I smoke weed. I'll crave it and I can remember. I like have the body memories of how it feels. But drinking, I don't miss that much. I only miss it when I go out. So let me explain. When I quit, I kind of was in a little bubble for a while, right? Like I think like 3 or 4 months I just like didn't go out. And now when I go out, I noticed getting a drink, like I love Diet Coke, so I'll just get a Diet Coke with lime and just hold it the whole time. And honestly, that feels really good. I'll be honest, and sometimes I would hit my friends' vapes, which is gross. And I never got my own, thank God. But like, because I liked, I'm not gonna buy my own vape, but like, I liked the feeling of smoking, but we don't do that anymore. Luckily, all my friends don't vape anymore, so we love that. Love my friends for that. Another thing about quitting both weed and drinking that I love is that I know for a fact it's like good for my body. I'm not the healthiest. I don't work out like at all and I need to start, but I know that by not drinking and not smoking weed, my body is like healthier. Like I know at least my liver and my kidneys are like happy. And that is a consolation prize I really love, that I'm like, wow, okay, I'm at least doing something good. Like maybe I still eat McDonald's too much and maybe I don't have good sleep, but my liver is not getting pickled and I'll take it. I remember in college, one time I went to the health center because I had like a UTI or something. And they asked me in this little thing, they're like, oh, have you had more than 5 drinks in the past week? And I checked yes. And they said, okay, when you check yes to this, we automatically offer like, would you like to talk to us or would you like to hear a little spiel about alcohol and why it's bad for you? And I was like, I got time, let's hear it. And I don't remember the majority of it. It's all stuff we know. But he said one thing that was like glued to the inside of my brain and I'll never forget it. He said, if you don't drink your whole life, your liver will be the like consistency of sashimi. And he goes, and the ones who do drink and abuse alcohol, their liver comes out more like a spare tire. Girl. I was like, I don't know why. I just remember him saying sashimi and a spare tire. Maybe not like obviously the actual, but like that's how he described it. And I was like, I gotta go. That is crazy. So I always thought about my poor little liver and I was like, I want sashimi liver. I don't want spare tire liver. I don't know if you've ever heard that one before, but I was mind blown when I heard that. So that one really made an impact. And so I think that gave into my decision at Chili's where I felt God and decided sobriety is for me. So ultimately, I think that the biggest thing, as I've said before, and I'll say it again, community is huge. If you can find community, you will be able to do it. It's very hard without community and specifically with haters. If the haters are like, oh, and like, bless my friends, they might be watching this, but I have a friend who always says she misses when I smoked weed and I'm like, oh, I miss it too. And people love to feel weird about you not drinking. I saw this comedian and I'm butchering it, so if I find the clip, I'll put it in.
When you tell a person that drinks, you don't drink, what they hear is, oh, you think I'm an alcoholic. And it's like, no, I don't think you're an alcoholic. I do think you make things about you, but...
It's like, no, I don't care what you do. For frankly, if you can have a healthy relationship with weed or alcohol, more power to you. That rocks. I wish I could do that. I cannot. I am a little freak who can't indulge in anything without doing too much. So try your best to avoid haters and to try to find some community that doesn't drink or smoke. I don't do any of those programs. I know that they do wonders for some people. I don't really like the kind of hippy dippy like God stuff, if I'm being honest. And that's kind of why I wanted to make this video, because when I was looking for help, I kept trying to Google like science-based research sobriety programs, and like I want to know the health things. I want to know the spare tire versus sashimi. That helps me more than hearing like your higher power will help you quit your weed addiction. You know what I mean? Like for me, it just doesn't hit for me, and it didn't really help. So now I want to circle back and just talk about some of the pros of quitting weed. I've talked about them a little bit, but I'm just going to go over it really fast. Brain fog lifting. Apparently, according to the internet and Mayo Clinic, emotional regulation. I did have mood swings at the beginning, but I don't know if I feel more stable, but it definitely just helps not taking things that are like altering your mood. They say increased motivation. I, however, am a ADHD lazy girl. I do think it helps. It helps more than when I smoked weed, but I don't know if I'm like got more motivation. But the big one I will say, so then now if we're talking about physical impacts, girl, I had a smoker's cough. I forgot about that. I had a smoker's cough and it was gross. And I love that I don't have it. I had an inhaler because of my smoker's cough. Like, talk about like creating a problem and then getting a solution for the problem instead of just fixing the problem. You know what I mean? So that lung healing, improved brain function. I told you my memory did come back. Better cardiovascular health. That one, I'm not sure, but I can't be getting any worse, right? I don't really have receipts to prove that one, but I'm sure it did. Oh my God, and money. Oh my God. So money, I saved so much money. I'm too scared to look at how much money I spent on weed, but I spent a lot. And I would like black out every time I put my card down. Like but I spent a lot. I mean, I don't even want to know. I was spending a lot. I can't. Let's not talk about that part. No, but either way, like at least I don't feel like I have a huge savings now or anything, but I mean, at least it's not worse, right? So there we go. So I think I covered most of the things that I found to be pros post quitting. The only thing I'll say is that sometimes I miss it and that makes me sad. But now the idea, I'm an anxious girly, so now the idea of like resetting my sobriety clock makes me really sad, because I'm like, ooh, 2 years and some change. And I feel like it does get easier. As I mentioned, people feel weird about you not drinking, but once it clicks, some people think it's chic and they're like, oh, I won't drink either. And at first I was like, I feel weird that people feel like they can't drink around me. They can drink around me. New opinion, don't drink around me. I don't want to deal with it. Editing me here, I forgot to mention that in addition to people thinking it's chic, I think it's really wonderful when you don't drink, because I find that when people are sober curious or maybe pregnant or just don't want to drink, that they can look to you as a comfort at parties. It's like, oh, well, Kaylin's not drinking, so I won't drink. Or like, oh, da-da-da-da-da. I find that makes me feel really good and warm inside, that I'm like, oh, I'm that person for people. And like, it makes it all better. And that you can be a designated driver. Hello, I can't believe I forgot that point. You can be a designated driver, which is wonderful. Oh, I also save so much money in this economy when you go out to dinner. So not only do I save money on the weed, my boyfriend and I, we get little entree split, like no drinks. We are saving so much money and just not buying drinks. Like, it's crazy how much a freaking soda, sometimes it's like $4 these days. I can't even imagine how much a cocktail would be. So that's also nice that we're saving money that way. Another thing I'll point out, if you decide to do this, is the idea that I've done this now is like fully one of the hardest things I've ever done. So like whenever I'm going through something else that's hard, I'm like, wow, but I quit weed and alcohol. So like I can do anything. And one time I was just really bumming and I was like, I've accomplished anything in my life. Boom, I've quit weed and alcohol. Like that is huge. Knowing that I'm sober is a huge accomplishment to me. Having just reached 2 years, like that's crazy. I did not think I would be doing that. And I'm proud of myself for having done it. I will say this opens up a larger thing, that this is like, to end on this note, if I get married, will I have a sober wedding? I don't know. I kind of like the idea, if you have a sober wedding, like you can have kids running around and people won't get sloppy, but I'm like, well, people hate it. I kind of don't care. My boyfriend and his family don't drink, so I can't really imagine it being like all my people super drunk and then their people just normal. I'm not sure. Honestly, I do feel happier about it. I can't say, oh my God, my mental health is perfect. I've never been happier, but I've never been happier. I will say that. I've been a lot more sad, and I'm very happy at the place in my life I've been. And overall, hopefully in this chaotic video, you get some inspiration for how you could quit, knowing that what led up to me quitting, and hopefully you find some community, some support. If you want to leave a comment, I'm happy to answer any questions, or I'm happy to give you a good, like, you got this, because I know how hard it can be, and I really wish people would talk about weed addiction and its seriousness a little bit more. So ultimately, I just wanted to make this video to talk about why I quit weed, what got me into weed, why I quit, what my sobriety process was sort of looking like. If you have more questions, I can kind of talk about more specifics in a follow-up. But ultimately, I just want to say, if this is you, and if you're a person who's struggling with weed addiction or alcohol addiction, but specifically weed addiction, just know that if I can do it, you can do it, and like literally anyone can do it. It is possible. While I did get a good kind of push in the right direction from my partner and my doctor, I do think that maybe I can be your push in the right direction, and that you can do this. It's just about finding the right support, get through those first 2 weeks of sobriety. If you can get through the first day, just take it day by day. But once you get past the first week or two, you're gonna be in a really good spot, and then just focus on going forward. And always think about the next day. When you're in the spot where you're like, wow, I really wanna drink, imagine yourself, what is tomorrow morning me gonna feel? And tomorrow morning you is going to feel pure euphoria knowing that you didn't drink or smoked, you know? And I really believe that you can do it. If I can do it, anyone can do it. And good luck. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions or follow-ups, because I will make another video about this. I hope some of it makes sense. And I'll talk to you guys later.